All right, Chair, I think we're ready to go.
You're good. Thank you, Desiree. Good morning. This is the Public Works Committee meeting. It is 8 o'clock on Thursday, June 4th. All members are present in our virtual meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our first item on the agenda is a call to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Second item is the approval of our previous meetings minutes from May 13th. Hopefully you had a chance to look. Go ahead, Rusty. Sorry.
I was just going to move that we approve the minutes.
All right, got a motion.
Second.
By
Second.
Susan. Any discussion, changes, edits?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Desiree, next is citizens' comments. Nothing was in the package. Do we have anything or?
No, Chair, we did not
Okay.
receive any public comments for this meeting.
All right, thank you. Next up, department reports. Donnie, we've got both of y'all's attached in here.
All right, good morning, everybody. Month of May garbage collection is on the average. Nothing out of the normal. Yard debris, because I think the amount of home still 218 was a little bit higher than the previous year, but we're back really in that's what we expect, somewhere in that range. So the month was busy, but I expected exactly what we got.
Yeah.
The miscellaneous debris collection was very high, out of normal. 59 tons was exceptionally high for the month. That probably could have been due to the number of those folks staying in their homes and staying at home, working from home.
Yeah.
I do want to point out one schedule change due to the bathroom. The public restrooms at Front Beach, I have moved Joe Washington from a Monday, Friday schedule to a Monday, Thursday schedule. And then he not only opens the restrooms at 8, then I put him doing the beach cleanup both Saturdays and Sundays, but that changed that schedule to avoid overtime. Vehicle maintenance, you can see we didn't spend a lot of money, $1,400 last month. I can tell you though that I put the tire rotation, I got a $4,100 invoice for this month. So we're about $1,000 from budget. Hopefully we can make it through June 30 and stay right there on the target budget. Now I will defer, unless you have any questions, defer to Robert and Robert's extensive report.
It's good, Donnie.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a quick question, just to make sure that Joe has got the proper, safety equipment to be able to clean in there in the restrooms and be in the restrooms.
So we have the city has hired a part-time employee.
Oh, okay. So he's not
and
doing
just
that.
call him F. He was he was the good one of the previous attendants.
Okay.
And so his work schedule is Friday from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. at night on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have
Okay.
also hired, Robert's got and I don't know if he's going over that on his report, but he has hired an independent cleaning contractor from Monday through Friday. So at 8 o'clock at night, that cleaning crew comes in, shuts down the restrooms, washes the whole restroom down, does a cleaning, professional cleaning, disinfecting Monday through Friday. We're working. We would prefer that would be a 7-day operation, because F has to stay within the less than 30 hours per week. So it's cutting it close.
Mhm.
And we are during the week, and I'll call it manufacturing time with Blue, one of the temp laborers. to go in the restrooms after lunch and be an attendant and steal that time from my staff. We can move it around as these drivers go off island. And so it's cutting down a little bit, but we're all right, with the exception of Tuesdays. Tuesdays, we scrambling. It's Robert and I up there periodically, making sure that the restrooms are properly stocked. We're still working through it. It's new. So it's a work in progress, but Tuesdays historically is going to be the weaker days of beachgoers. And it's the worst day for the Public Works Department. So it's something we're gonna have to work through, but I think we can manage. If we can also rely on other departments, i.e. the rec center and Josh and Chris, if we need to call, certainly I'm sure Norma Jean, all it'll take is a phone call and she'll have somebody on it. So I'm not really worried. It's just, you hate to lean on other departments, but I know that they're there if I need them.
Well, I guess that I want to make sure that, you know, we're not, if you need more resources to make sure that we're really keeping that stocked and cleaned in the wake of the pandemic, I think we would all fully support that.
Certainly,
if that's necessary.
Yeah, certainly I can hire an additional temp and throw Blue up there every Tuesday. I know I've got a plan. I just want to make sure we do the things and do it systematically with a plan. If I need, even next week, and I see that the beachgoers are such that I'm going to need help up there on Tuesday, by all means, I'll hire a temp. Move Blue away from the garbage, put him up there. He is I know that there's no supervision needed if I put him up there.
Yeah.
It'll be done
Yeah,
right.
we have a very detailed plan, Councilmember Smith, about how to handle the public restrooms in light of the contractor backing out, right before we were going to remove the checkpoints and open up the public restrooms. All of the things that we're doing is almost half of what we were paying the original contractor. So we have funds available to hire additional temp folks if we need to. So Donnie is managing the temp folks during the week, just making sure that they're fully stocked. And we've talked, even yesterday, we were talking about some things that we want to implement to maybe reduce the necessary manpower during the week. We do have somebody who's there from, opening to close during the weekends, which is where they get the most activity. But yeah, we're managing. Norma Jean has also provided assistance when needed. But I think the only day that it becomes a little tricky is on Tuesdays because of the work that Public Works has that day.
Right.
And if we need to have another temp employee for those days, we've talked about, asking that to our temp agency.
Okay,
So.
it sounds like you've put a lot of thought into that, and my hope is just that whoever is in that situation has the training and equipment that they need, so they're not at risk, and so that the public is well taken care of as well. So
thank you.
All right, Robert.
Yes,
You're
good
up.
morning. Sure. Okay, let's start at drainage, and some of these items we've already talked about in the past. They're kind of coming to fruition now, like Will's Way. We went with an independent contractor to run a drain pipe and a catch basin there to collect the water in the cul-de-sac. So they're in the middle of doing that right now. We have our routine maintenance through ED Services, and listed is the areas that they've been working on. There was a ditch between 28th and 29th Avenue that had been obstructed for years, and I don't even know if it was really one that they would hit routinely. We've got that taken care of, and with this last heavy rainfall, that homeowner has not received any additional water to the back of their property, which was the reason why we had that cleaned. Public Works staff had gone around cleaning some drop inlets after that big storm. We've been finding that some people are some residents are placing debris, or contractors placing debris over some of these drop inlets, prevents the water from getting in there. Ocean Boulevard project is almost complete. There's some light cleanup, and they've milled the road to do the patchwork there. So they're pretty much done. Where we had a problem at 215 Charleston due to a blockage on Charleston Boulevard, we've had the county remove that blockage, and the same result now that we had that heavy 3 inches of rain. 215 did not flood during that last rain event. We have 3 projects, or actually 4, that I physically went down with a representative from DOT, SCDOT, showed them the spots that we needed to take care of. That was on Monday, and went through those. So those will be scheduled in June and the early part of July. Those were systems that were either buried or just ditches needed to be restructured. So that'll be happening soon. General facilities, just the usual. Desiree and Donnie have touched on the front beach restrooms. A lot went into that to get those up and running. Like they said, we went with an independent cleaning contractor to clean the restrooms regularly. Just like they said, we've been filling in the interim. Same with landscaping, rights of ways, connector, general maintenance, as you can see, and then the Leola Hanbury Park, which we've been working in-house to get that back into shape. And I think pretty much, if you have any questions, that's about it.
I just want to add to Robert's update on drainage is that we're really focusing on a very proactive approach to drainage ahead of the hurricane season. So we've been having regular meetings to make sure that he has the resources that he needs to address some of the drainage hotspots that we have on the island, and any ditches that need to be structured, any ditches that need to be cleaned, that, Robert has been working with EDs on identifying those and getting those scheduled and done. Also, we've been actively working with SCDOT on a number of projects along their right of way. So I think this is, I feel very confident that we're going to be in a really good situation ahead of rains and ahead of, expected flooding and hurricanes. Now that we have somebody dedicated to, making sure that we stay on top of it.
Yeah. Question real quickly and Desiree, this may be for you rather than Donnie and Robert, I don't know, but down at 3702 Palm, I guess it is, where the Jordan home is, and it's all torn up, where people park on the side there. And I noticed that there's some fencing that's been put up and some boards and what looks like kind of construction sandwich type things. Is that something we did to protect that area?
Yes, sir. We had a meeting with Ms. Gale yesterday around noon. The day before, Donnie, Robert, and I and Chief Cornett met on site to look at the area that continues to be degraded by the vehicles parking there. That area, as we all very well know, every time it rains, it holds a lot of water, and it takes sometimes days for the water to subside, and that is causing that issue along with the parking. So what we did while we were there, and funny enough, we Robert and Donnie had to help a lady who had pulled in straight to that area, which had very deep ruts, and had to help her get out because she was stuck. So we immediately said, okay, this is turning into, it's not only unsightly, but it's turning into a public safety issue if we get people parking here that can't get out with somebody pushing their vehicle. And they're backing out to the lane, to the roadway. So we immediately deployed some fencing and some temporary no parking signs to ensure that people are not parking there. Yesterday, we met with Gail and talked to her about some of the some of the mitigation strategies that we could put in place short term. And Robert is working on getting that scheduled. What we're going to do is grade that area and smooth it out, and then install some ROC, some gravel to compact it. And that way, you know, it's a harder and stable surface that will avoid some of the, you know, muddying and ruts that are created by some vehicles. And, you know, Ms. Gail expressed, you know, she was very, very glad that we, you know, all met her there, and we are going to put that in place. I don't know about the scheduling. Robert may be able to speak to that, but yeah, she was very glad that we quickly, you know, addressed it. You know, it's not going to look as nice as she had it before with all that sod and, you know, but you know, it's the least that we could do at a short moment.
Well, I'm glad you all addressed that, because as you know, rightfully, she calls every time we have a heavy storm, because that is really one of the worst spots on Palm Boulevard. It drains less quickly there than any place else on Palm. You know,
there's really no drainage infrastructure anywhere in that spot. So,
no. And that vacant lot next door to her is like, you know, it just pools with water.
Yeah.
But it's wet.
There's no drainage infrastructure that Robert has found yet. That's there's something
Good
there.
point.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Susan, you have a question?
Yeah, I had a couple things, and one was along those lines with the drop inlet boxes getting covered up. Maybe if we could just do like some social media to discourage that, or you know, in a positive way, and alert people to be careful about that. One was I wasn't the place that we were talking about just now. Where exactly is that? What was the location?
3704 on Palm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's 3704.
Okay, cool.
On the ocean side.
Okay, yeah. So near your neighbor neck of the woods, Rusty, right? That's like one of your neighbors.
Yeah,
practically.
Six houses down. Or
Okay, gotcha. And you mentioned, or on the list is 23rd, 24th, but Robert, if you could update a little bit, because I've driven by, and after we had the pop-up tropical storm, they had a lot of water there. What's going on there?
Yeah, so that was as you know, that was the street that I had found the buried pipe opening. There's supposed to be a swell ditch that runs about, I would say, 3/4 of the way up in front of that property where we discovered the pipe. So DOT is going to dig that down to their, you know, so to what they need it to be for a regular ditch. What I did is just actually found the pipe opening, tried to get some of the water, but they need to really carve that down to really take in some of the water. While they were also there, I showed them where it pools closer, because that's only going to take half of the water on that street. The rest of it will pool closer to 23rd. So DOT took a look, because there is a drop inlet on the corner of 23rd and Hartnett, and he's going to kind of do some out of the box thinking to see if there's some way that they can connect the drop inlet. So that was just as all of Monday. But the first start was really to get that ditch regraded to at least get and see where we're at as far as removing half of the water. It may take more of the water. It's just the way it's set up now. I just did a little gully to see it flow, to see it go through. You know, but that is one of the hot spots, and I believe if DOT doesn't get involved there, that's somewhere where we may have to go and put that on some of our smaller projects and figure out how we can eliminate the rest of the water, because that is a constant when it rains.
Right. Well, thank you for pressing forward with that. How quickly do you think DOT might respond? I mean, are we looking at maybe getting something done before the heart of hurricane season?
Yeah, so within a month, the problem there is that somebody had sleeved a pipe on the other end of it closer to 24th. So whenever somebody has put a pipe, they have to give 30 days notice that they're going to be removing the pipe to the homeowner. And whether or not it's the homeowner's obligation, if they don't go out and do it, then SCDOT will just remove that
Mhm.
pipe themselves and put it back the way it was.
Okay, okay. And then my other question is just, especially in light of having the tropical storm pop up, what, do we have a system in place? Is there somebody who monitors the weather in terms of being aware of really high tides and that kind of thing? Like, does somebody carry that responsibility and to be aware in the moment when we have sudden storms pop up?
Yeah, I think being in charge of drainage, every rain event, I basically, see it the day before, the week before, and then I'm out while it's flooding, and it kind of gives you an idea of what is flooding, what's working, what's not. To be prepared for some of these pop-up storms, some are heavier than others. It's a little difficult. And then if you have a high tide cycle, like we did, I guess it's almost a month ago, where we had about approximately 6 inches of rain, then the high tide. So you have a lot more flooding because the water has nowhere to go. So it's kind of like you never really know what to expect. But as these systems get cleaner and cleaner, and if you don't have a high tide, they will obviously drain better. But yeah, I'm constantly watching the weather.
Okay.
Donnie also.
Okay.
It's kind of what we've always done, even for with the tropical storms and staging pumps ahead of time. Hopefully this year we really don't have to do that, because where we used to historically put pumps, those are all new systems now.
Mhm.
Hey, Donnie, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just Susan, I think you probably aware, because the administrator always sends out, when she sees the forecast coming into her office, she'll blast that out to, I think, council, I'm not sure, but all department heads. That also shows an alert to us. Of course, we'll look at the tides as soon as she sends that out, but she's historically always sent any notification like that out to put department heads on notice.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is no shortage of people from staff checking and calling Donnie, and do we need to remove some of the trash cans back to the dunes, or remove them altogether? So yeah, we're constantly monitoring that and making decisions based on that.
Okay, good. It just these days it seems that we have just an increasing number of king tides that sometimes seem to pop up without much attention, at least in the general public, as well as pop-up storms that we maybe can't even, the tropical
There's
storm
always
is just a little troubling that came up out of nowhere. No fault to you all. I mean, even the weather forecasters really missed it,
There's a
right? So
public work presence at any storm, whether it be 11 o'clock the other night, a month ago, or I was over here with storing. Somebody will be here for public works.
okay, great.
Hey, Robert, one last question, then we can move on. It seems like, your report in the last couple of meetings, it feels like our Department of Transportation relationship and interaction is much heavier. Do you feel that as well? I mean, how do you feel that relationship's going?
Yes, I think DOT has actually, it's all part of, I feel like they've been more involved. They've got a couple of key people there that I can reach out to easily, and are more than willing to come down within a day's notice to see what we need done, which is really good. So I feel like, yes, there's a better relationship. And I believe, even speaking with Donnie and Douglas, that this kind of relationship started a little bit before I got here, and has been really working out well. So, and you have to remember too that, SCDOT is everywhere. So to get their time is very valuable, and they've been showing it. And the last 2 quarters that we missed, one was due to a hurricane. So they were scheduled to be here, and due to a hurricane, they couldn't come down. So then they'll fit in some of those small projects between. And then the last quarter, they had a pop-up facilities inspection. So we kind of lost them on them. But even in the interim, they've sent crews down to do some of the work to fill in, but they generally like to give us full crews, 3 and 4 crews for a specific block of time and send them to the island. And that's where I have all these lists going, so then they can knock it out in one shot. But yes, the relationship, I believe, has gotten a lot better.
I want to quickly add something, Chair Pounds, that, Robert is right. That relationship has improved in the past maybe year and a half. And it's really because of SCDOT changing their deployment structure and their strategy on how do they deploy crews. In the past, they had this list of work orders and they would send one crew all over the state. And it was really inefficient, and we never really had a drop dead date on when the projects were going to be done here. So what they've done is quarterly, and this works for every other municipality. They identify a week or a 2-week period where they deploy a good chunk of their crews over here to start and finish projects, rather than coming here and then needing another piece of equipment that's maybe deployed in Greenville or wherever, and we have to wait a couple more weeks to get it done. So that has improved, and their crew is wonderful too. They're very, very responsive, and they have new people there that have really changed the way that they operate, and we've benefited a lot from that.
Yeah, and Desiree, I knew, they came to Planning Commission, probably been a year and a half or 2, Robert, I bet. There was this whole good story about change of practice and change of people, and so it's nice to see that that's really happening. And
Yes.
a lot of that's due to Donnie and Robert too, as well, keep holding their feet to the fire. So that's great. Thank you guys for doing that. Okay.
I would just suggest that if we haven't done anything along these lines, that maybe we should send an official letter, affirming that we appreciate this new strategy, that we feel like it's working really well, and thank them for changing things to make things better.
Thank them for doing their job. Yeah.
But thank them for doing the job well. And especially make sure that, I think it wouldn't be bad to increase the positivity between the two entities. So,
Mr. Chair. Yeah,
yes.
Mr. Chair. While we're thanking people for doing a good job, I would like to commend Donnie and Robert and their entire team too. They are doing an excellent job out there as well. And we had we chatted a little bit before we went live, and these guys are not only good leaders, they're hands-on too. So we really appreciate what you guys and your department do. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Donnie and Robert, as usual, just very good reports and progress on a lot of fronts. So thank you guys for the efforts.
Yes, thank you.
All right, old business. Desiree, I think we'll head to you. Update on phase 3 drainage project and small internal projects.
Well, I don't have much of an update from our last meeting 3 weeks ago.
I was going to say, it's only been 2 weeks, right?
It's only been about 2 weeks. But yeah, Thomas and Hutton continues to work on both projects. We're very, very, very close on being done and being able to start the bidding and contracting for the small internal projects. Thomas and Hutton is currently working on preparing a more detailed cost estimate to make sure that, now that the design and the permitting is finalized, we have more information to make sure that those cost estimates are still within budget. As you all know, we had to rebudget those funds to FY21, so those will be included in the proposed FY21 budget that was approved for first reading last month. For the phase 3 drainage project, we're still on time, still working on permitting, expecting permitting to be finalized sometime between late fall and early winter. So we're expecting to be ready to start construction at the beginning of next year. And that project is also included in the proposed FY21 budget, which we, from draft 2 to draft 3, we've included additional funds for the Waterway Boulevard project and wanting to combine that as part of that initiative. And I want to show you all something that we failed to include in the packet, but I'm going to share my screen here, and it is the proposal for Thomas and Hutton to, are you all seeing it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it is the proposal from Thomas and Hutton to study and prepare a conceptual design of the Waterway Boulevard path and investigate the feasibility of elevating that to not only improve the path, but also create another barrier between the intercoastal waterway and the island from 21st and 41st. So I will, we definitely will include this in the next Ways and Means meeting for more in-depth discussion. But here is the proposal that was requested of the city from Thomas and Hutton on how to do that. It's $18,900. And I'll just scroll down so that we can look at the scope of services. It includes evaluating topographic data and construction plans and as-built drawings to establish the study for that corridor. They're going to also study some of the drainage patterns. They're going to conduct some engineering analysis, do a field walk, and then provide opinions of probable construction cost. Right now, the drainage project has roughly $200,000. Not the drainage, yes, the phase 3 drainage includes roughly $200,000 for this work. But after they do this project, we'll be able to know for sure what the cost would be to elevate that. We've had some, informal conversations with Thomas and Hutton, and sometimes they're very reluctant to give us a number, and they will do so if you push them, but they will give you a lot of caveats. This is kind of off the cuff. Don't hold me to a kind of number, but we feel that the 200,000 might be, it's a good indicator of what we might see after the opinions of probable cost. So right now, the agenda only has update on phase 3 drainage. Can't really make a recommendation to Ways and Means from the committee because it's not included as an action item. But we'll make sure that it's included in the Ways and Means Committee, and then full council can discuss it and can take action at Ways and Means and then at full council. But I wanted to go ahead and show you all, give you the number. I'll share with you all the full document so that you can read it at your leisure, and maybe have some questions for us for the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Desiree.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
I have a question about that, but I'm intrigued to see that we're talking about 21st to 41st, because I know that we always talked about upgrading the path along that way, but I was thinking the elevation part was more something would be doing on, and so I didn't realize that there was discussion that elevating the whole path could be beneficial. Is that been an evolving conversation, or
well, in order for it to be effective when it comes to addressing sea level rise, we have to address the whole thing. So this is one of those projects where you kill two birds with one stone, maybe. And we really need to look at it comprehensively, because it does provide the city an added opportunity to be more, do something more in the resiliency category, where we're trying to address future flooding, future drainage issues. So yes, the recommendation from Thomas and Hutton was you really need to look at the full length of that path.
Okay, well, I think that sounds actually exciting, that could be a beneficial measure for that entire area. And I suspect that if we elevate the path, then we also potentially make the issue of tree stumps becomes less of an issue over time, I would think. Is that part, has that been discussed? Because much of what
No.
our issue is when tree stumps create problems, but if we're elevating, perhaps that becomes less of an
I mean,
issue.
that's part of what
long-term.
this study is about, to see.
Yeah, exactly. This
get them
is,
to tell us what
mhm.
to do.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you.
Great. Next item is update on IOP connector and sidewalk extension project. Robert, Desiree, which one?
Yeah, Robert, go ahead.
All right. So as you see, we ended up putting in the sod yesterday. We're working with the garden club to do some plantings in there also. I've ordered 5 palm trees that'll go down the side of the DPW building on the connector side. And then we'll just get in and do some pine straw. I believe we may be able to do some lighting also. We're going to see on that. But then we hopefully will be wrapped up. I'm hoping within the next week or two, we can get that whole center section and the connector sidewalk all wrapped up.
I just want to add that we've been actively working with the Garden Club ladies. They were instrumental in the creation of that park. And as you all know, the park is named after one of their members, Leola Hanbury, and a member of council. And they have indicated that they would like to donate some flowers and some plantings and do that work. So we're very grateful and very honored to work with those ladies that love this community so much.
Great. Very
That's
good.
super.
I'm sure they're happy to see the improvements already. I mean, because
Yeah.
that park had really been run down over the years, but
Yeah.
they have to be
Mhm.
ecstatic about the improvements being made.
Absolutely. I think the new park really honors Leola's legacy very well.
It's a great opportunity to actually have people be able to enjoy the park more.
Very good. Thank you, Robert. Item C, I'm going to guess we've covered already, but if there's anything else to add, ongoing drainage projects, anything else, you good?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't think we need to add anything unless, Robert, you can think of something, but if not, we'll just go ahead and for the next meeting, we won't include that item as old business since we've already included it as part of the Robert's report.
Director report, that's perfect. And I see Donnie shaking his head, so I think we're good there. Last item on old business is update on citywide landscaping RFP. Desiree?
Yes, we have put out that RFP a couple weeks ago. We are going to open proposals tomorrow. We have actively searched some landscaping companies and make sure that they're aware that we have this RFP out. Ron also reached out to other municipalities to get, the contacts for their landscapers and any recommendations. So we've been actively making sure that folks know that that's out there and asking for proposals to be submitted. So we'll know more tomorrow, and then any recommendation from staff will be presented to Ways and Means at the next meeting.
Okay. And Desiree, you guys are running this in-house, right? This RFP search?
Yes. Mhm.
Very good. Thank you. 6, new business. First item is discussion of the city's tree fund. Desiree, you want to take that?
I'm not sure if Councilmember Smith would like to talk about this. I can answer any questions or provide some advice, but this is something that Councilmember Smith has had interest in discussing for a couple months, and we thought that this was the first or the appropriate avenue to start that conversation about the city's tree fund. In your packets, we've included the section of the code that pretty much governs the use of those funds that the city receives when somebody needs to remove a tree and tree replacement is not an option. They have the option to donate or pay some monies into the tree fund. Currently, the way that the code regulates the use of those funds, they need to be used for beautification on city-owned property, on public property. So any change to the use of those funds would require some study, research, recommendation to council, and then be made in part of an ordinance amendment. So, I've had brief conversations with Councilmember Smith and also Chair Pounds on this. I think that this might be an opportunity to either engage a citizen advisory group to kind of study and make some recommendations. Also, a good opportunity for the Planning Commission to be involved. So I'll kind of just say that and then let Councilmember Smith maybe speak about her desire or maybe her vision about what could be done with this tree fund.
And can you remind how much money we have in the tree fund now?
So in FY21 budget for expenditures, we budgeted $15,000, and that's pretty much what we budgeted. But in the balance of that fund, we have $102,000.
And when you talk about the $15,000 that's budgeted, is that already earmarked for certain projects?
Correct. For example, we are using some of those funds that are currently in an FY20 budget for some of the improvements that are happening at the Leola Hanbury Park. That is a beautification project for city-owned property. So those would be used, some of it would be used for that.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it seems to me we have this pile of money, not pile, we have this set of money that is restricted. It's a fund that's restricted that we can only use for beautification, tree plantings, but that we should be looking for smart ways to use it. Otherwise, it just continues to get rolled over. It's not available for general expenditures. And at the same time, I think it just would be wonderful if we could do more in terms of either planting of trees or beautification projects. I had floated the idea of maybe we could have a program to promote rain gardens for residents that would help with drainage. So that's one possibility, but really, I just would like to see the money being well used. I'm very happy to see it be put towards planting more trees, whether it's on public property or on residential property, although that would, as our city administrator explained, require some changes to the ordinance and freeing that money up. But there's a lot of value in adding more trees to the island in terms of beauty, and they can be incredibly valuable to our environment and the health of our planet, and they can help us with drainage. So I'm not married to any particular ideas, and I think that with what's going on with Dominion and the tree removal there, we may want to think about directing some of that money towards replanting of trees that have to be removed. I mainly just wanted to get the conversation started, and with our budget year, see if we can go ahead and plan for spending some of that money, and make sure it's in the budget so that we don't have to wait a whole other year before we are able to spend it.
And Desiree, do you know just kind of the flow of money into that fund periodically in and out?
Oh, I'd have to run a report.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just curiosity.
You can
more than
put me in the spot. I'll get myself out of it. Don't worry.
Mr.
Donnie,
Chair.
go ahead. Yep. Let me get Donnie real quick, Rusty.
Okay, that's fine.
Donnie, you're muted. You need to.
He's working on it.
Just guys, just keep in mind that every year we have to replace, I would say on the average, 10 to 12 palm trees from the Planet
Mhm.
Palm. That comes out of that fund
Yeah.
for Ocean Boulevard palms. And they, for whatever reason, poor soil conditions, there's on average 10 to 12 of those palm trees per year that Public Works has to, and we'll do a survey of them every year and do a one-time planting, but don't exhaust the entire fund if you do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good point. Rusty?
Thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to put approval in for maybe getting planning commission involved in this and possibly a citizen advisory committee. I think, getting citizens more involved in projects like this would be very helpful, and continued spirit of involvement of all of our residents in beautifying the island. So I'm in favor of that. So
Yeah.
let's put that on here.
Yeah, so Desiree, I guess could next step be, let's launch this to the planning commission and let them put a plan together around whether involving citizens or kind of, to Donnie's point and all our questions around what that money flow looks like year over year, and make sure we reserve enough for general maintenance of the palms and such. So I mean, is that kind of a good next step, or where's your head?
You could, make a recommendation that council assigns this project to the planning commission, or create a citizen advisory board, very similar. So we would follow very similar the process that we did for the swimming pool advisory board when we put out a statement, council has created a citizen advisory board to look into X, and folks would submit, a quick letter of intent or of interest that they want to be part of it. And the committee evaluates that, assigns, a few folks, whether it's 5 or 7, and, they work on that very specific task.
Yeah, I think I would, instead of dictating to the planning commission, I'd probably just let them run with it personally, but with a, suggestion that, we had a conversation around an advisory board with the residents, and let them put a plan together. I don't think we need to dictate to them how it needs to work.
Yeah, you all,
Do
you
we
can
need-
make a recommendation today and present it to to council at the end of the month.
Okay, Susan?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm glad for the planning commission to, they do fantastic work. Credit to our chairman of our committee, who has been in previous, did you chair the planning commission, Philip?
Oh, gosh, no.
Oh, okay.
Just a willing member, yeah.
So that sounds great to me. My wonder is whether we are, because of the timing, should we discuss placing some money in the budget, although we may not at this point in time have a very specific idea of how we would spend it? What would your recommendations be along that, Desiree, in terms of, as a placeholder, going ahead and putting, the opportunity to spend up to $50,000 from the tree fund for now, so that we don't, I guess it's frustrating when we start these initiatives and then they have to be delayed until the next budget year. So I'd like to be proactive along those
Yeah, but
lines.
this has a fund balance to it, right? Desiree, a designated fund balance, so I don't know that that's an issue.
So
We're talking.
So it's not as much of a problem there in terms of,
It's when
since
we're
it's
trying
already-
to, it's when we're trying to create money is the issue. Yeah.
Okay, I
This one's
gotcha.
got money.
All right.
Rusty?
Yeah, does this need to be in the form of a motion, Desiree, to take the recommendation to council?
Yes, sir.
I'll-
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion, whatever language it is. Make a
The
motion.
recommendation,
Yeah,
so, Councilmember Streetman, let me see if I'm reading your mind. You would like to make a recommendation for, to city council so that the planning commission can develop a plan on how the city could better use the current, the city's tree fund balance, or the city's tree fund.
you read
Is that
my
what you were
simple mind.
thinking?
Yes.
Well,
I'll second that. I'll second that, Desiree, or Nicole,
Okay.
sorry.
that sounds good to me.
Rusty, I think you've just created a new way to make a motion, whatever the language is. Yeah. I like it. I like it. Any other discussion? Desiree, I didn't mean to talk for you around the budget. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
That's not my role.
Thank you all for your support.
Yep. So all those in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you. Very good. Next, last item on new business, consideration of Dominion Energy tree removal and trimming. So related topic, obviously.
Yeah, right. And I asked for this too. Dominion sent responses to questions that came up in our special meeting with the full council over concerns about the 97 trees that were slated for removal. I'm curious to get an update on where that is. First of all, I think that I believe I heard them cutting some trees down on Hartnett recently. So I know that they were supposed to get started. Can you fill us in on where they are with the project, Desiree?
I don't know exactly where they are or how many trees they've cut. I'll reach out to them. I do know that they did start 2 weeks ago, right after the last meeting that they had with council. But I can get that information for you.
And so I think we have this set of answers to our questions. I would like that to be available to the public somehow, because there is a lot of public interest in this and their continued concern about the removal of the trees. And interesting that we're not alone, that other low country communities are starting to get vocal about this as well, as to the degree of need for some of these trimmings and removals. And there was an article in the Post and Courier, editorial guest column by a group called Stop Dominion that is really pressing for, they're geared more on the city of Charleston, I believe, but they're really pressing for, a closer look at really what is required in terms of some of the measures that Dominion's taking. And I think we need to remember in the course of our conversation that Dominion is a for-profit entity, and that is obviously shapes their thinking. And so, they make points in the editorial that perhaps we're not as beholden to some of the measures that Dominion might make us think we are, that there's more wiggle room in there, that there are other cities across the country who have been more proactive in negotiating with their energy providers to, not necessarily just accept what they are being told has to be done. And I don't know at this point that we can do anything about the removal of the 97 trees that's currently going on. But as we move forward, I think we need to consider that and also be more proactive as we look at this next round of trees that they're talking about removing, that I guess they call stage 2 trees that are likely going to grow to be problems. So I wanted to bring that up for discussion and see what the mood is of the committee. What you all have been hearing, as I have, from concerned citizens, even after our meeting with the full council.
Rusty, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple points on that. I mean, the communication we had back, I think on May the 18th, answering our questions that we had in full council. And, like it or not, I mean, there were some things on there that were disappointing to us, like the stump removal and things like that, and not being able to relocate class 1 palmettos. But they're also, and this has only been, a little over 2 weeks since this communication came out, but they were going to also give us follow-up information on grant funding opportunities to offset the cost of underground utility lines, some feedback on the non-standard service fund balance, and then provide that information that Councilwoman Smith was talking about the number of trees that may have to be removed in the next cycle. So I think we hold them to that. And it's only been two and a half weeks since we got that communication. And I would just hope that we keep pressing them for updates on that and keeping us informed and try to, have as good a relationship as we can under the circumstances. All of us are disappointed that even 97 trees had to be removed. And, but it's a time for us to be, I think, smart in the way we approach this and try to have not only a good working relationship with them, but also an opportunity for homeowners that want to plant new trees or whatever, have an approach where we help them locate the right area to do that so that they don't interfere with power lines in the future. So
Yeah.
it's my,
Yeah, and I think, Susan, to your comment, my dad worked for an electric utility for 45 years. I mean, I've seen this forever, and all this energy and efforts around when they come and start doing the training, and then it goes away, and then it's back up again in 5 years when they do it. So I think, to Rusty's comment, I mean, I would totally agree with, we need to have, just kind of like with DOT, with Robert and Donnie just a minute ago, this is a relationship that needs to be developed, not when we get the notice that the trees are coming down. And that we need to put a plan in place, and they have some follow-up items. I think we have some follow-up items, but I think it's as much about, creating and keeping that relationship going over the next 2 to 3 years to see what we can do and have some strategy around this as opposed to reaction. I think, the 97 trees are going. I mean, this is all about a future conversation, from my opinion. So Desiree, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to any of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the relationship building really helps and will help the city be in a better position for when the next cycle comes. I will say that I was, like most of you all have already stated, somewhat disappointed with the responses that we received from Dominion Energy, particularly, them saying that they have no record of any trees that were removed in the previous
Exactly.
cycle.
Yeah.
We look at trends and we look at, historical activity, and we don't have any information to gauge whether this one is, because it certainly feels a little bit more aggressive and sort of, overwhelming than in the past. And not being able to see that is disappointing and, really unfortunate, I will say. But I think that they have been trying to fix that by the way that they're doing it this cycle. But yeah, I guess that's my comment.
Yeah, they have people decked against, community relations. And again, I think that's where our relationship starts and continues. So, Rusty.
Yeah, I guess the implication of that, but about the prior records, would be that SCE&G didn't keep good records.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Which is hard to believe. I mean, I don't want to hone in on that, but hard to believe that, the contractor must have had a list of trees that they were, responsible for trimming.
Right.
Right.
Hey, Rusty, being on the other side of that in corporate America, on the banking side, we probably did 120 mergers over my career with Wachovia. It's like, I can believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, probably got lost.
Yeah, I can see that one happening. No
Yeah.
excuse on their part out here.
Right.
Susan,
Right.
Susan, do you have a question?
Well, I appreciate all those points and agree. That was one thing that I was also surprised and skeptical that there would be no record of past trees. I guess it's possible. I mean, honestly, it may be that SCE&G was less concerned with tree removal, and as a result, we have a lot of trees that are now, problems as far as power lines, because they maybe weren't more proactive in the past. But moving forward, I think it would be good for. I'm not averse to having a relationship with them. I think we need to go in with eyes wide open, though, and make sure that we're looking out for our community, because that's our role, and they are looking out for their business at the same time. So, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together and take some proactive steps to prevent this situation where we have trees growing into power lines, palmettos and palms being fast growing, that can't be trimmed like an oak tree can. That right tree, right place campaign, I think we need to be talking about that and promoting that, is, with our residents as they're looking at where they're planting their trees, and making sure that we're not creating problems. But I'll look forward to us also having that conversation about underground power lines and being strategic about that. It sounds like it could be very expensive. So.
It doesn't sound like it. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will be very expensive. The degree to which we want to try to put that into place, I'm sure will be a very thoughtful discussion, but.
Yeah, but again, Susan, to that exact point, that's where the strategy comes in, that, instead of just reacting when these guys show up, let's put a plan in place and start working towards it. If we want to bury lines, great. If that's where we want to head, and where would we start? Yeah, I'm with you. So Desiree, do you want to, is there really any action we need to take here, or just a good conversation?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe, so this would be the committee that would, I think, should be the place where we have those regular conversations, right? To keep this going and not let it become forgotten, and to the point that we get 5 years from now, we're in this like, oh yeah, that again, right?
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, I would say yes to that, Councilmember Smith. What we could do to get the conversation started, rather than letting it, sit on a shelf for a few years until it's time again. Maybe we can ask some key members from the Dominion Energy team to join us at the next meeting, and maybe develop a timeline or a plan strategy on the conversation about burying the lines, and to keep the conversation going, and maybe get something in place in the next few months. I
That
think
sounds
that
great.
it sounds like this committee wants to be very involved in that, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to get some of those questions answered, and for the city to fully understand what would be the city's commitment and the community's commitment for anything, for any plan that's put in place. So we can certainly make that happen, and have include this as a discussion, and update item on the agenda for next month, and invite them to the meeting.
Yeah.
Super.
Good.
Yeah, and I don't, schedules can dictate some of that, Desiree. I don't think there's urgency to that extent, but I think to Susan's comment, let's just not lose it, and we can hold hold each other accountable, Dominion and ourselves.
Mhm.
I think it makes sense.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree.
Yep. Thank you. Our next meeting is July 2nd at 8 a.m. So we'll get a full month in between meetings this time, which would be helpful. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? If not, motion to adjourn.
I make
Thank
that
you.
motion, Mr. Chairman.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye. Nicole, 8:02. We're out. All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Sorry, I didn't get to you
Bye.
under
Have a good one.
an hour. Oh, wait, 8:02, 9:02, right?
Sorry. Yeah.
It's 9:02.
Central
Oh,
time.
that's right.
Sorry about
Philip's
that.
in a different time zone.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you all.
thanks, y'all.
Have a good day, everyone.
You
You
too.
too.